I personally have somewhat of a love-hate relationship with anime-based video games. On one sense, I love them because they really shaped my childhood. I remember watching Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, and all of these other anime as a kid, and whenever you had a video game release that was based on these anime, I would be the first one to pick it up. I remember playing Naruto Ultimate Ninja, all of them through Storm 4. I remember playing a lot of the Dragon Ball games, Dragon Ball Budokai, Budokai 2, Budokai 3, Tenkaichi. I can go on and on, but honestly, now that I'm a little bit older and you go back and look at these anime games, some of them are really good and others just aren't very good. It's really hit or miss. Like, sometimes you'll see the Naruto games. The Naruto Storm games have generally been pretty good. Dragon Ball in its entirety is really hit or miss. It goes back and forth. There have been a slew of really good Dragon Ball games, and that's been great to see in recent memory. But some of the earlier Dragon Ball titles were not anything to write home about. You look at some of the games like the One Piece games, they're not fantastic. Even the recently released My Hero Academia title, that game I was very excited for because My Hero was finally making the transition into the video game realm. But that game, while it was the first foray for My Hero, just seemed a little bit sparse in content, and overall I didn't think it was an excellent game, but an okay outing nonetheless. And recently we had the open beta for Jump Force, a very odd open beta where Bandai Namco was only allowing it to be playable in certain time windows, and honestly, the gameplay in the beta itself was what it was. Unfortunately, it had a lot of issues from a network standpoint, and it was just a train wreck there. And with the fact of it having these weird time windows, just a lot of people didn't checking it out. Coupled with the network issues that I just mentioned, Bandai Namco has decided to pull the plug on the second half of the beta. I imagine we'll be getting another beta in the near future, especially because you need to get these network issues ironed out before this game's release. That's coming up in just a few weeks, and I've noticed that the anticipation of Jump Force is higher than maybe any other anime game in recent memory, and it's easy to see why. This game was unveiled at a pretty big platform. You had the Microsoft E3 conference. Whenever you can unveil a game at an E3, that's gonna be a great moment to unveil a game, especially because all eyes in the gaming world are on those conferences and all eyes can be on your game. And with Jump Force, I feel like it was very easy to captivate gamers from the get-go. A lot of you guys might not even know that these Jump games have been around for a while. There was one on the PlayStation 3 last generation, and there have been a couple of titles on the DS. I have to say the Nintendo DS titles, while they never came stateside, if you imported those games, you know how good those games were. Unfortunately, that PlayStation 3 game, and I want to talk about that a little bit more later, but that game was not very good. But whatever, you go on a stage like E3 and you unveil a new fighting game that technically looks very good, and a lot of the times when you're at E3, it's just about what you see initially and captivating and hooking gamers from the get-go, and I feel like they did a really good job with Jump Force just because I feel like an older audience generally does watch E3, and when you see a game that takes all of these iconic anime characters, you had Yugi, you had Naruto, you had Bleach, you had Yugi, you had Naruto, you had Bleach characters, One Piece characters, you're taking all of these iconic anime in a technically impressive game, throwing them in a mosh pit together, and Bandai Namco is publishing this fighting game. It's hard not to get a little bit excited about it, especially because just on the basis of nostalgia and seeing this game and how cool it is, it's a pretty exciting game, and we've seen how Smash kind of took that formula of these dream fighting matchups, and it's become an absolutely juggernaut of a franchise. In other cases like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, unfortunately that formula didn't turn out all too well. That game was actually kind of okay, but I think a lot of people just saw it as a ripoff. In the case of Jump Force, got enough unique variables, and honestly speaking, I do think the Jump characters are a little bit more iconic than the PlayStation characters. I know a lot of you guys might be baffled by that statement, but look at characters like Goku, Naruto, Luffy from One Piece, Yugi. Those characters, honestly speaking, you could make an argument that they're pop culture icons. At least at some point they were. Especially in the case of characters like Goku and Yugi, so many people grew up with those characters, and they're still integral characters today. When you compare that to some of the PlayStation characters, I don't know, maybe that's just my nostalgia speaking for me, but I feel like a Goku or a Yugi is more iconic than even a Nathan Drake. But I don't want to get into that debate right now because I'm opening up a can of worms that I don't really want to get into, but it's clear to see that a lot of gamers want Jump Force to be really good. I'm still a little bit skeptical, however, because the game is being done by Spike Chunsoft, and they also did the PlayStation 3 Jump title, and I think a lot of gamers are just forgetting that that game ever happened. I think a lot of gamers don't even know that game happened. That was a similar arcade fighter, taking a lot of the iconic Jump characters, throwing them in a fighting game, and it has some cool elements, but honestly speaking, given all the fighting game offerings today, and even the fighting games back then, that game was just not up to par, even compared to the anime games back then. I believe that released around the time that Storm 2 and Storm 3 were coming out. In the Dragon Ball realm, there weren't a ton of incredible games at that point, but Naruto Storm kind of had that stranglehold on the anime fighting game scene, and that game was really great, and looking at the PS3 Jump game, that game was just not up to par. However, given that some of us were actually able to play the open beta, at least for a little bit, and there was a workaround that you could even get the open beta to work offline, we got to see some of the elements of the game. Not the entirety of the game, but we were able to check out the 3-on-3 tag team fighting gameplay mechanics. And is this a super nuanced fighting game that is gonna have a hardcore competitive scene? Probably not. Maybe I'll be proven wrong on that. But what I do think they got right is fan service. And with a game like Jump Force, you want to get that fan service right. You want this game to be flashy. I know that that word flashy might not be appealing to a lot of you guys. Now, I've mentioned this concern about the game being style over substance, but then when you actually play the game, you immediately recognize that this game does have a little bit of depth to it. And it's a game, while it has that flashiness, which I think is very, very important for this game to be that mainstream success. And I know a lot of you hardcore fighting game fans are going to be like, what's this dude talking about a game being flashy? But again, that idea of somebody just walking into the room and looking at the game and then being completely absorbed into it, very few games can manage that, but I think Jump Force is one of that title. But again, this game does have substance, and it's a game I feel like a lot of you guys are going to spend a long time with and actually mastering and getting good at. Again, I don't know if there's going to be a hardcore super competitive scene. We'll see if they can get the network issues worked out, which I have my fingers crossed that Bandai Namco actually gets that done. The cancellation of the second half of the beta has me worried, but while I'm retaining a little bit of skepticism, I think the enormity and the potential of this game is actually being understated by most gamers now that I'm starting to think about what this game could be more and more. I think it's a game that can translate in the mainstream, and it's shocking to me, and it's really become evident to me in the last few weeks that how many gamers are excited for this game. We just recently uploaded a video going over all of the PS4 game releases in February, and I mentioned how skeptical I was of Jump Force, and it was surprising to me how many of you guys left a comment on that video saying Jump Force is my most anticipated game of February. I am so excited for Jump Force, etc, etc, etc. There were a lot of comments on that video, and while I was excited about Jump Force from a fan service standpoint, from a standpoint of having all of these iconic characters battle one another, I never really gave it the benefit of the doubt that it was going to be this commercial blockbuster. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be the biggest game of the year, it's going to reach sales numbers of like a Red Dead Redemption 2 or even a Call of Duty, but given how anime fighting games and games like this that are a little bit more niche, I think Jump Force is going to do really, really well. Now, what does that mean on a gameplay standpoint? Based on what I was able to play of the open beta, this is kind of what you would expect out of an anime fighting game. Again, it does have a lot of flash, and I think they got that part right. And the characters that were available in there, I think they were represented very well. I do want to go over the entire roster because right now it's very sizable, and I think they've hit a lot of the characters they needed to hit. Now, I'm not into all of these anime, so my apologies on some of the pronunciation. I am into the majority of them, but let's go over every character in the game. From Black Clover, you have Asta. From Bleach, you have Ichigo, Rukia, Renji, and Sosuke Aizen. Boruto, you've got Boruto. City Hunter, you've got Rio. Dragon Ball, you've got Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, Piccolo, Cell. And you've got Frieza in there as well. You've got Dai from Dragon Quest. You've got Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. Hunter x Hunter is the one I'm a little bit unfamiliar with. I know that there is a gigantic fandom surrounding it. Bagan is in there, Kaluuya is in there, Kurapika is in there, and Hisoka is in there. From JoJo, you have Jotaro. You've got 2 Jump Force exclusive characters. From My Hero Academy, you've got Deku. From Naruto, you've got Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, Gaara, and Kaguya. One Piece is making a big impact in the game with Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Sabo, Boa, and Blackbeard. From Rurouni Kenshin, you have Kenshin and Makoto, Saint Seiya, you have Pegasus Seiya, and Dragon Shiryu. You've got Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I absolutely love. Seeing Yugi in this game is fantastic, and Yugi is one of those characters that has really had lasting power throughout the years, just because you see him featured all the time in various memes and whatnot. Just a very iconic character in Yugi. And lastly, from Yu Yu Hakusho, you have Yusuke and Toguro. On top of all of those characters, you also have the aspect of creating your own unique playable character, customizing them with different outfits and accessories earned through the gameplay, and you have more fan service with more iconic characters like Light Yagami and Ryuk from Death Note appearing in the game story and being NPCs. Unfortunately, they're not playable characters, but I kind of understand because they will kind of be hard to be made playable characters, but nonetheless, they will be presented in the game, and that's everything that's been announced so far. I'm sure DLC is going to be a part of the game. I'm sure there's going to be updates and whatnot. And on top of that, the stages that have been confirmed for this game are so cool because not only do you have anime-specific areas, you also have real-world locations. For example, you have New York City's Times Square, you have the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, you have Hong Kong, Mayan City, Paris. That's another aspect of the game where I think if a casual gamer walks into the room and they see Goku battling Naruto in Times freaking Square, that aspect of this game will do very well in capturing gamers that might not have the biggest interest in gaming. But also featured in the game, of course, are various locations from anime. You have Planet Namek from Dragon Ball, Hokage Kage Rock, Valley of the End, Thousand Sunny, Marineford, so don't worry for those of you that want that anime-centric crossover experience, that is absolutely gonna be here. I know at the very moment of recording this video, there's quite a bit of controversy with the network play and whatnot. I'm gonna give Bandai Namco the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully they can get that ironed out before the game's official release. Let's hope that to be the case, but from a commercial standpoint, a promotional standpoint, and just on the basis of how big this game can be, I think it could be a huge game release. Now, if it's an absolute train wreck of a game, there's not a lot of content, and it's very bland, based on what I see so far, I don't think that's gonna be the case, but I do think Jump Force could be a bigger game than a lot of you guys are expecting, and I've really come to that conclusion in the last few weeks. But let me know what you guys think. Am I overstating how big Jump Force could be? From a content standpoint and a game standpoint, I'm still a little bit skeptical about what Spike Chunsoft is going to put out. That last Jump game just left a very sour taste in my mouth. But just looking at the anticipation, the hype, and the potential of this game, I think the potential is limitless. But I'm very interested to hear what you guys think, so sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.